Hi, my name's Natasha Woodstoke and I'm a research fellow and clinical psychologist at the University of the West of England in the UK. And today I'd like to talk to you about the Living Well with Dementia model and how we've adapted a group intervention for families and couples. The current Living Well with Dementia course is an 8-week psychosocial intervention for people recently diagnosed with dementia. It was developed some time ago by Rick Cheston and Anne Marshall, with a focus on helping people to talk about their condition and adjust following their diagnosis. It has some core principles of giving people space to reflect and talk about their experiences and a relatively slow pace so people have time to think and talk about what has happened to them. It can be facilitated by a range of professionals, usually dementia workers, for example, nurses, occupational therapists, and on occasion, dementia support workers. We've had some really good feedback about the group course, and it's increasingly used across the UK in the NHS, in the National Health Service, and in the voluntary sector, and also abroad, so in Ireland, Italy, Oman, and more recently in Japan. However, we have had some feedback that for some people, they would prefer not to attend a group. They might prefer to talk with their partner or their family members, or just feel very anxious about attending groups and that not being for them. Therefore, our research aim in this project was to explore whether the principles of the group intervention, that pace and space, could be applied with couples and families. So one of our research fellows in our team, Beth Winter, she interviewed 26 stakeholders relating to the Livdem intervention. And she spoke to people living with dementia, their family members, current Livdem group facilitators, and some psychologists. And she spoke to them online using semi-structured interviews and focus groups. And she explored their views on adapting Livdem for couples and families, whether they felt this would be a useful intervention and how that might look. And we found 4 overarching themes through our reflexive thematic analysis. The first theme being around people being ready to do that. So the importance of a good assessment to understand who this intervention might be for. So that's about the timeliness of the intervention. So it being so important that this intervention is offered at the right time for families. If people aren't ready to talk, it's not going to be effective and it could be detrimental. And it needs to be at the time when they're ready and want to talk about these things. But also more widely, who might benefit from this intervention. So the thinking being it would be good for people who don't want to attend a group or would rather talk to their families, but that there's also people this might not be for. So, for example, if there are existing relationship issues within the families, this intervention won't address these and therefore might not be helpful. The second thing we heard was that the intervention needs to hear the impact on everybody. And therefore we need to adapt that group intervention model, which is for individuals, for the whole family. And the family needs to feel safe to open up. And so we maintain the space and pace core principles of the group intervention, but also address the relationships within the families. How are they coping together around this condition and the changes it's made to their daily lives? People were very keen that we retain that core element of the Livdem intervention around naming the dementia and rather than putting it to the side, and the benefits of being able to talk about what was happening. People also made this a really useful suggestion of having a toolbox of interventions. So some topics might not be part of the course sessions, but would be very important to families. So, for example, a couple might want to talk about intimacy. So having some resources facilitators could use when those sorts of things came up was seen as very helpful. The third major theme we found was around the importance of facilitation. So who was facilitating, and that being an empathetic and skilled facilitation, really. And it is such a fine line where you're encouraging people to talk and be open about what is happening, but not forcing that and causing high levels of distress. So really people were very keen that facilitators have the skills, so the training to deliver this intervention and the ongoing support within their services. But people also had a discussion around who should be delivering this, which professionals might be most appropriate. And our fourth theme was really around how this intervention might look. So people were keen to say that dementia affects the whole family, both members of a couple, and therefore we need to think about them as a unit. But they also didn't want to lose some of the advantages of the group. So the group people are coming together with their peers, people who are going through a similar experience, and people didn't want to lose that. But they were also able to suggest some alternatives. So whether that might be several families coming together, or like you know, we talked about maybe individual families meeting. People are also very keen that the services, whoever's providing this intervention, were connected to other local services. So this is a short-term intervention and therefore needs to be connected to other longer-term support for people, so people aren't left. And that was very, very important to people. So taking those results from those stakeholder interviews, we were able to start adapting the manual that was for the group intervention and try it out with some families. So what we've been doing is we've been using a 6-session model where we have one assessment session exploring with the family, like that timeliness element. Are people ready to talk? Are they wanting to talk? And is this the suitable intervention for the whole family? Then 4 core sessions focusing on the family coping together. So just like the group, talking about how dementia is affecting them, but how are they coping together and adjusting to living with dementia as a whole family. Then a follow-up and review session to think about how the intervention has gone and what people have taken away from it, and return to some of those concepts. But what is maintained is that, you know, this can be facilitated by non-psychologists in a range of settings. So thinking about adapting Livdem, there are some things that we've retained from the group intervention and some obvious changes we've made. You know, we're still giving people space for people to talk and reflect, and also maintaining that relatively slow pace to not rush people. We're attending to the emotional and social elements of living with dementia, but this is still a manualised intervention that can be facilitated by a range of professionals. But we obviously have made some changes. So this is no longer a group intervention, and it's more with a more focus on family relationships, which we hope will mean discussions can be tailored more to the needs of that individual family. But overarching, we would say there is a common theme to these living well with dementia interventions: to help people talk more openly about their dementia and adjust following their dementia diagnosis, whether that's within a group with their peers or with their families or partner. Well, if you'd like to find out more, if you'd be interested in running your own group, if you want to get involved in our this new intervention, Livdem Families, please get in touch. We've got our website, which has lots of resources on, and links to the Livdem manual for the group if you're interested in purchasing that. You can email us if you want to have a chat and see what we're doing, and we have a Twitter account as well, so check that out. And then I've just put a list of our research team there if you'd like to talk to any of us about what we've been doing. Thank you for listening.